In May this year, Associate Education Minister David Seymour announced $153 million in funding to bring back charter schools, saying state schools that are not performing could be converted to the charter model. The funding would apply over 4 years to establish 50 charter schools. 15 would be new, while 35 would be converted state schools. The first are expected to open by term 1 next year. There were, of course, charter schools before, between 2011 and 2017, before Labor ended the program. Opposition political parties and the unions are mobilising against charter schools, with some submitters to the Parliament's Education and Workforce Committee stating aspects of the bill were preposterous and outrageous, and that the proposed changes would breach labour, human rights and free trade agreements. Well, ACT Party leader and Associate Education Minister David Seymour joins me now. David, a very good evening.
Good evening, Leah.
No surprises, really, that, as I like to call them, pearl clutching and fainting cultures are coming out. But, you know, you've heard it all before. Can we, for the listeners, David, just walk us back a little bit to how a charter school will differ from state schools?
Yeah, happy to do that. But can I just go back one step further? Why are we doing this?
Yes.
Look, if New Zealand means anything to me, it's the basic idea that no matter how you're born, you'll get a chance. So we're not going to do everything for you and guarantee you success, but everyone deserves a chance to reach their potential. And in the modern world, you need education. You're not going to make a salary by muscle, like cutting down kauri trees anymore. That's past. You need to be able to read, write, and do maths and probably science in order to succeed. So we've got to give people that chance with education, but the truth is that we are failing terribly. The number of students that aren't enrolled, there's about 10,000 at any time that have just gone missing from the government's books. The number that are not attending, even though they are enrolled, and then those that do attend, all of a sudden there's a major challenge with the level of achievement. For example, this recent statistic that of Year 8 students, only 22% are reaching the target level of maths. Now, this is a major problem for all of New Zealand, especially for those students, and especially for people who are poor, because generally, kids in wealthier communities, the parents get them extra tutoring and go along and work on the school working bee or pay for private fees or whatever. So it's really about, this is a project inequality. It's for those kids that won't otherwise get a chance getting a chance. I just say that and we're failing. Number two, charter schools are funded by the taxpayer, but actually they're not, in a way, that it's the student that's funded. They get the money that they would have got if they were in the public system, but it goes to a school that is run by a sponsor, and the sponsor could be a business, it could be an iwi, it could be a charitable trust, it could be any kind of community group that has a contract with the Crown. They get the money that the kid would have got in the state school, and they operate the school on their terms with the money all provided in cash, and they have to get certain contracted outcomes for student attendance and student achievement. Basically, they have to be as good or better than a state school for students of that level of disadvantage or advantage or characteristics or whatever. Now, what's important there is they get their money in cash and they don't have to use the contracts that the union negotiates with the government, and that means you can do things differently. For example, I knew of one charter school the previous time round. They negotiated with their teachers to work longer hours but with smaller class sizes. You can't do that under the union contracts. Now, maybe it's a good idea, but you can't do it. And when they got turned back into state schools by Labor, some of the teachers said, we don't want to do that now, we want our union provisions. So that's the nub of it, is that we are breaking the union contracts. We are letting the schools employ the teachers directly and pay them directly with the cash that's given directly to them. And that, if you're a union organiser or a union rep, is an existential threat to your livelihood and your belief system. So you will hear more and more, not from the teachers, but from the union organisers, that this is the end of the world. And the reason is that for those people, it is.
Yeah. Doesn't it, David, though, would it open up some kind of exploitation where if the charter school does it differently and suggests teachers might work a bit longer but smaller classes, which they would prefer, I can imagine. But what about payment? Is there a chance they get not what they should be getting? Or is it a case where they might end up getting paid better?
Well, I mean, first of all, you can't force anyone to work at a charter school. It's not a free country. So the charter school sponsors are going to have to pay the teachers, enough money that they're going to choose to work there instead of somewhere else. Certainly in the past, what they did was they saved money in other areas. Like they didn't have flash buildings, but they had higher teacher salaries, which, I'm not saying that's the right or the wrong thing to do, but it's an option. But ultimately, let's just say for a moment, that they were paying less to the teachers, but they were getting better results for the students. Wouldn't that be a good thing? And I actually think it's really important that we start thinking about, well, okay, what does this mean for the students? And what does it mean for New Zealand when those students become adults with the responsibility of keeping this place going?
Can we address just some of the accusations from your distractors, David? NZEI, no surprise, has said that giving the Education Minister the power to force state schools to become charters is undemocratic and authoritarian. Are you forcing state schools to become charter schools?
Well, quite possibly, yes, and here's the circumstances in which it would happen. There are schools that fail and go in and out of commission management. Generations of children go through and do not get appropriate learning. And we just say, oh, well, we're not sure what to do about that. Basically, in our view, the responsible thing to do is if there's a way that you can get someone in to do it differently, to operate it better, and you can hold them accountable with a contract for the students to show up and learn, then I think we should do it. If the alternative is for it to remain a state school and have a statutory manager and have a commissioner sent in, and then they say, okay, we've done that, we're going to try and elect a board of trustees and do it again. Oops, it didn't work. We go back to the same way we did before. If that's the alternative, then actually I think there's some schools that for the sake of the children should be made into charters. And again, I just always... the unions always talk about, what about the teachers? What about the school? I say, what about the students? What about New Zealand?
Joe's text in, David says, thank you, David. Children need to go to school regardless. Single mother, both my adult boys work and always have. It came from home and seeing their mother working 24/7. That's from Joe. Thumbs up. Nice stuff. There was some positives.
Joe, I've diagnosed you as an ACT voter.
Yeah. On a positive note, a researcher has said that the charter schools would take pressure off the public system and are more cost effective than state schools. Also, the current education system did not provide families with choice, which of course you would agree wholeheartedly with. Can I, David, quickly though, just change tack? Because something caught my eye, and it is something that I've spoken a lot about on my show, and it's the racial harassment in Parliament. And you have said your confidence in the Speaker of the House is falling by the day. Can you please explain?
Yes, I mean, first let me preface this by saying I know there'll be people who say, look, in between the economy and the healthcare system and the